Are you struggling to create an intentional headspace? Are you unable to connect deeper with yourself? Come, and together, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm your host, Sinead Roche, and this is the Uncomfortable Podcast. I think we're searching for people to love us. I believe it starts with our parents when we're young, and we're asking them for our validation and for them to appreciate us more and to give us more attention. Like, you know, when you're younger and you're like, I'm gonna show you guys a dance, like I want you guys to be proud of me, like why aren't you clapping, like things like this. I think even small actions like that is kind of showing like when we want something, when we want people to give us that kind of like feeling of you're special or like, wow, you did such a good job. I think we like that validation. And then I think it moves on to, as you grow up naturally, like you want friends, right? So you want them to choose you and to pick you. And now it's starting to sound like a bit like a pick-me thing, but I mean, you want to be able to share with people. You want to be able to learn about other people at the same time. And as you want other people to pour into you and you want other people to choose you, you also want to be able to choose people at the same time. And then it moves into relationships. You want that one person to make you feel so special, like you literally like you're the only girl in the world. Shout out to Rihanna. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous. Like, I think, yeah, when you're younger, it makes kind of sense that like you want your parents specifically to be the ones to show you what it feels like to be loved. But it's a dangerous place to be in, especially as you grow older, like, and especially as you come into contact with many different people. Putting that responsibility of loving you onto someone else when you have yet to fulfill it for yourself, let me tell you something, you are walking on a very fine line, because depending on the people you go to, people can be very generous, people can be giving you so much, and at the same time, people can also notice when you don't have that within you, when you don't have that love for yourself. And so that's how I want to talk to you guys about self-love today. I kind of have mixed feelings on self-love because I don't believe that someone loves themselves 100% constantly. I think people are more in the sense of accepting themselves. And not only accepting themselves, but also being very compassionate towards themselves. I think we need to, at least my definition of self-love, it needs to stray away from like 100%, like I love you, like to sometimes just I'm empathetic towards you, like, and I understand what you're going through, and I'm here for you. And it's really weird to say when you have to say, I'm here for myself, right? And the thing is, we're going to talk about self-love a lot because I think it's really relevant and it's ever-changing. But let's talk about, even if you don't know that you need self-love, or even if you feel like you can't give yourself love, let's talk about why you need it, right? And why you need it going into any scenario that you walk into. And before we get into that real quick, I just want to say, I think the reason why most of us don't want to grant ourselves that type of love and give ourselves the permission to love ourselves is because we know us. No one will know you better than the way you know yourself. And as beautiful as that is, it is also horrific, man. Like, it is horrendous. Especially like when you have like those self-hatred thoughts, or when you have hatred towards others. No one's gonna know that except you. At the same time, no one's gonna know how happy you get from this small thing, how happy you get from this small gesture, or like how curious you are about something. No one is gonna know every nook and cranny about yourself except for you. And that's when people become especially self-aware. That's when people know themselves. But I think that's kind of why it's really hard for people to love themselves. And so I don't want to talk about that today. I don't want to talk about you having to love yourself because you're amazing and you're great. No, I think that's really hard. And I think that's where everyone starts, right? Like, you have to love yourself because you don't see your value. I don't want to say that today. that's extremely difficult, and especially like if you've come from places where no one sees your worth, especially if you have that kind of mindset. And so I kind of want to, I guess, approach your defensive side. I don't think this is necessarily the best way, but I think it is a start. I think the reason self-love is extremely important is because self-love is self-protection. I'm gonna say it again. Self-love is self-protection. When you love yourself, you protect yourself from others. You protect yourself from the people who do not belong around you. And the reason why I say this is because I think as social creatures, one of our, I don't know if it's our flaws or just one of our mechanisms is that we crave social validation. We want people to accept us and to love us. But the thing is, not every person we should be seeking validation from. And so let me give you guys a scenario, right? When a person doesn't have self-love and other people see that, one of two things can happen. Either someone's gonna be very generous. They see it, they acknowledge it, they wanna pour into you. They wanna show you why you're so great. And as great as that is, there is also like a tricky situation in that. Or B, they see it, they've acknowledged that you don't love yourself enough, so they might be thinking they can take advantage of you. They can manipulate you. Because someone who doesn't have self-love, self-acceptance, self-compassion, whatever you want to call it, right? Someone who doesn't have that, doesn't understand their worth, doesn't understand their value, and therefore doesn't know how much they need to protect it. And that's what I want to talk about. Like, people are around you, and not everyone is as genuine as you might think. It's just the way the world is. I'm not going to say that there aren't great people in the world. There are. But at the same time, there's also some bad people, or people with bad intentions, rather. And when you don't have, I like to consider, that self-compassion, self-love as, a little golden circle around yourself. When you don't have it, people can see that. And it's very easy to see it because it's the way you talk, it's the way you act, it's the way you walk, the way you hold yourself in a scenario. Are you looking for people's approval? Are you standing by your opinion? Are you looking for someone else to agree with you always, or are you okay standing by your own? Right? And people can see that. And when the wrong people are seeing that you are looking for everything, you're looking from others towards others to guide you, it's very easy for them to come into that place and want to guide you. And they can, because you don't know yet what your worth is and what your standard is, and so they place it on you for you. And I think the hard thing is as you gain, as you gain more self-awareness, you start to, and if you look back in the past, you start to see oh shit, this person did that to me. And you're like, what was I like back then? What was I like with the person? What was I like as the person who didn't love themselves? Or even now, are people doing that to me right now? And that's not to say become paranoid or anything like that. It's just to say, ask yourself, in certain situations, are you looking for others to agree with you? Are you looking for others to say yes to you? Or to say no to you? Are you looking for others to dictate your actions and the way you respond to things? Or are you being authentic to yourself, and are you sticking to yourself and staying true to yourself? And like I said, a person who doesn't understand that yet, a person who does not have that self-protection for themselves, allows people who like to manipulate, it allows them into your life. And it allows them to get in there very sneakily because they're giving something to you that you've been wanting for so long. They know it. They can take advantage of it. And that's exactly why you need to have that protection for yourself. And likewise, let's go to scenario 2. Let's say someone is genuine and someone is genuinely pouring into you, and they're doing it literally out of love because they want to give that to you. What happens the moment they leave? What happens the moment they leave? You're going to internalize that. You're going to think they left because of you. And now that source of love and validation is not there anymore, and because you don't have it within you, you're gonna fall back into old habits. You're gonna go search for someone else to give it to you now. And you're gonna feel like the reason why they left is because of you, because you weren't good enough. Like, having, even in that situation, like, it was a genuine person, it wasn't a person who was trying to manipulate you or anything like that, but yet they were the source of where that love was coming from. And you let them pour into you without realizing that you had to pour into yourself. And this is such a dangerous place to be in, regardless of the situation, regardless if someone has a good intention or bad intention. It is a dangerous place to be in because someone else is setting the standard for your worth, right? And I understand it's very difficult to start saying, yeah, I can still love myself. Even though right now I may not like myself, but I can still love myself. I think it's difficult to say that to yourself. So the first step is do it out of defense mechanism. That might not be the best advice, but do it out of defense mechanism. If you're someone who doesn't have that self-value, like you don't understand your value, you don't understand your worth yet, right? You need to understand you're at a vulnerable position. So do it out of a defense mechanism. Do it because you want to protect yourself. And that's the first step, man, because you're already feeling low. At least let it be that you only feel low about yourself and that you don't take into account that other people also see that you're low, like, or also feel that you're low. Like, let it be you, right? So protect yourself. And eventually what's going to happen is you're not just going to see it as like something that's helping to protect yourself, but it's also it's something that's going to help you enjoy your life more, right? But how do we get there, right? It's difficult because especially like as you become more self-aware of yourself, you become more understanding of who you are as a person. And again, sometimes you don't like yourself, but you have to love yourself. And the easiest way, like how I started it, was I started thinking of the person that I love most in the world, whether it be a best friend, whether it be a family member. I started thinking, like, who's someone I believe deserves the world, right? And when that person who I believe deserves the world comes to me, has a problem or feels down on themselves, what do? I tell them advice that I want them, that helps them lift up. I listen to them and I hear them out and I'm empathetic towards them. When they told me they messed up, I'm not gonna be harsh on a person who I love who has messed up, but I'm going to give them advice. And in that sense, I want you to bring the problems that you have to yourself and respond in the way that you respond to the person that you love most. So when you have problems, respond to them, give yourself the advice, give yourself the empathy, the compassion that you would give to another person. And I think that's how you start to build it. Because you know what it's like to, I think for the most part, most people know what it's like to give love to others or to want to give love to others, right? You have people who you want to care for, so care for them. But in the sense that care for yourself the way that you care for them. Give yourself the advice, again, give yourself everything that you've been giving them. I think that's the easiest way to like start to go about it. And yeah, like I said, it takes time, but once you get into the habit of it, once you get into this process of like, let me talk to myself like a person who I love, it gets better. Thank you guys so much for listening.